Hey everybody, it's Jimmy and Bill. Bill, today what we're talking about is 2025. Well, 2024 is behind us and now we're 225. And is Florida going into the perfect storm when it comes to real estate? So basically what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to give you a bunch of reasons why a lot of people saying that Florida is facing the perfect storm when it comes to real estate, basically real estate collapsing. And I'm going to bring up one of the reasons at a time, and then let's talk about it. And you tell me, as a realtor, if you agree with it or you disagree with it.
Okay,
That's
perfect.
basically where we're going to go with this one. Okay.
Okay.
So, like, give you an example. All right. One of the reasons people are saying the perfect storm is coming is high mortgage rates. Mortgage rates are expected to remain high, above 6% in 2025, maintaining affordability challenges for many buyers. So rates are actually went up today when we were recording this. They actually rates have gone up. Okay, they're just below 7%, and
hmm
even though there was a lot of price cuts, rates are still going up. People always thought, you know what? Once if the Feds cut the rates a quarter percent or a half percent, the mortgage rate's going to drop a quarter percent. It doesn't work that way.
No, doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, I
So,
wish it would. That would be great, but it doesn't work like that.
so in your opinion, high mortgage rates, is that an effect of the perfect storm when it comes to Florida real estate?
Interest rates obviously have a direct correlation on the ability for people to borrow money. So to that respect, yes. I mean, it's going to be your tolerance level. So obviously, because depending on the market that you're in, obviously we're talking more of a national thing for everybody, not just our local Tampa Bay area here, but nationally, your inventory could be up or down in your area, and you could also have, your prices could be up, and in some areas the prices could be down. The point of that is the higher interest rates affect your borrowing ability for your debt to income and how much you can actually afford, because it changes your monthly payments significantly.
Oh, it does. So basically, so you agree with the critics saying that mortgage rates are going to have a big part in the perfect storm when it comes to 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. Mortgage rates are going to play a part in sales for sure. I'll try not to skip ahead, so we'll see what the next statement
Yeah,
is.
no, it's really important that everybody stay till the end because there's really, really important reasons why people are saying the perfect storm coming in 2025, and we'll explain it as the video goes on. In the meantime, do me a favor. If you like this kind of content, consider subscribing. It really does help the channel and it really motivates us. All right, Bill, what about this one? Okay. Rising inventory levels. Florida has experienced an significant increase in housing inventory with a 27.8% year over year rise, leading to a more competitive market and potential downward pressure on prices. Okay, so during the pandemic, during the peak, okay, the unicorn years, houses would stay on the market like 2, 3 days. You,
Maybe, yeah, less. Some of them were less. It
yeah,
was
some of them were
insane.
hours, and there was multiple bids. Then we went to the average, like 40, and what I did is I looked at some stats, okay, and you tell me if they're accurate. But now they're saying that some of the areas, the average time on the market now is 80 days.
Yeah.
So 80 days is a big, big difference between 80 and 40, or especially too when it was, the unicorn years. Now, do you think rising inventory is going to contribute to the perfect storm?
So let's unpack that a little bit. So number one, we cried when there was no inventory, and now we're crying when there is inventory.
Okay, and confession, before you even get into that, I always said that the reason why the market is hurting because we don't have enough inventory, and when the inventory opens up and houses come on the market, everything will be hunky dory, and I was wrong. Okay, so
I don't know if you were necessarily wrong, though. So and maybe this will kind of elaborate as to why I'm saying that. So, like I said, we cried when we had low inventory. Now we're getting back up into inventory, and everybody's crying again. So, to steal a phrase, everybody wants their cake and eat it too. So, we need the inventory because obviously the low inventory is what drove the prices up. Low inventory, low interest rates, that drove those prices up that everybody is feeling the effects of now. Just so fast, and that was not healthy. It just wasn't. It is what it is. It's the past. So now we move into a market. Let's look at where inventory is today, where it was prior to COVID and the unicorn years. So depending on where you're at in the market, I can't really speak on in general, but to your specific market, but in general, at least in our area, we were averaging around 60 days on market. So we're really not that far off. Now, I have seen some that are 80 days, but where I would check that stat, and I haven't seen that specific one, is just make sure that is it days to contract or is it days to close? Because they track both of those metrics.
I don't know. I didn't
Yeah.
get
So
into
like,
that
because
part
it
of it.
could be days to close, which 80 would make sense,
All
right?
right,
Because you
but do
need
you think
23 to 30 days to close, depending on where you're at.
so do you think the rising inventory levels is contributing to the perfect storm in Florida for 2025?
So if we're talking Florida, no, I think we have enough people coming in here. I think certain spots in Florida will hurt more, but with builders building more and continuing to build and starting new projects, yes, some of the projects were put on hold because they needed to slow things down a little bit because certain pockets slow down, become oversaturated. So they don't have, they're not moving enough products. So they're slowing things down in certain areas and then reallocating funds to higher growth areas. And that's just good business.
All right. What about this one? Price adjustments. Okay. After a period of rapid appreciation, home prices are anticipating to stabilize, with some market potentially experience temporary declines of 10% to 15% in housing prices.
I can't say yes or no to that one because I don't know where they're getting their numbers from. So just in research I've done in my specific area, you go from neighborhood to neighborhood. Some neighborhoods, there's a huge price difference. Some neighborhoods have giant reductions down. So where I would look at it is just holistically. So if they're saying 10% reduction in prices,
Right.
so is that 10% reduction in the starting list price to the closing price?
I think this one was actually starting list price, 10 to 15% on the average of decline of prices from when first listed.
So if it's a 10% decline from where it was listed to where it closed, is kind of what they're saying. There's the spread there.
Yeah.
So is that a 10% reduction? That's where these stats get super muddy, and you have to be careful where they come from. So most of the neighborhoods that I've been looking at more recently for me in the Tampa Bay area here, they're anywhere between there's usually like a 1 to 3%, give or take,
So you
reduction.
you personally think that price adjustments is not part of the perfect storm? Like
There's
me,
always been
in my
price
opinion,
adjustments.
I think it is part of the perfect storm when it comes to Florida real estate because I see a lot of price declines.
Right, but there's always been price adjustments. So when you see a property, again, because I don't have these stats that you looked at, when you see a property that goes on the market for X dollars, and then 30 days later, there's a reduction in price. 60 days later, there's another reduction. So, and so on and so forth, and you're continuing to reduce the price. That would tell me that in that area, I would use that as a metric to go, okay, well, why is that price continually going down? Is there something wrong with the house? Is there something wrong with the marketing, photos, various things? And then what are the other homes in the general area? And I'm not talking 10 miles away. I'm talking 1 mile, 2 miles max. What are the other properties doing in that area? And decide whether it's the market or did they just go into the market too high? Because everybody wants to make the most money for their house. I don't know
So,
anybody that
so
doesn't.
if you have to just say a yes or no, if it's contributed, it's going to
I
contribute.
can't give a yes or no because I
You
don't
can't
know.
give a yes or no on that
No,
one.
because I think there's still a lot of stuff that's artificially inflated.
Okay.
I see too many, because if you go on like Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, all those things, you see price reduction, price reduction, price reduction, and it'll show
Yeah,
you the
that's what I
percentage.
mean.
And that's how
Yeah.
people are getting these numbers,
Right.
you know?
Okay. What about this one? Okay, contributing to the perfect storm. And this one, I'll just say up front that I think it is going to contribute big time to the perfect storm when it comes to Florida real estate. Insurance premiums increase. Properties in hurricane-prone areas are facing significant hikes in insurance premium, affecting affordability and buyers' interest.
100%. There's no doubt about it. Insurance is a huge issue here and in a lot of places. And it's unfortunately, it's probably going to be here for the long haul.
So you don't think there's going to be a solution when it comes to insurance premiums in Florida in 2025?
Probably not. And any solution that has taken effect, let's use the issues with the litigations and the legislature changes. Just I guess we're 2 years in now, maybe
Yeah.
give or take,
Hmm.
and that's going to take so long for those took effect, but for everybody to see the results of those is going to take years because there were so many lawsuits already in the pipeline. They've got to work their way through the system. And obviously, if you know that there's something going to change like that, and you're the person that's going to benefit from the old legislation and be stifled by the new legislation, you're going to push to get things into the court system so that you're under the old rules.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you totally understand what you're saying. Yeah, insurance. I think insurance is going to be one of the freaking death nails when it comes to a lot of real estate deals. But anyways,
And people just have to go into it and understand that. But conversely, that truly is going to be what changes pricing because everything has to be taken into consideration when you're shopping and you're pricing the house, and you've got to get the house to the point. It doesn't matter if you list the house at 500,000, let's say, as an example, right? And if the bank says that the house isn't worth 500,000, the house, it doesn't matter what you list it at, and you find a buyer unless they want to pay the extra negative equity to the bank because the bank's not going to loan you the money anymore, which is how we got into a bad situation back in the 6, 7, 8 years.
do you know I'm working on a video topic, basically people abandoning, waterfront coastal
Hmm.
properties, can't afford them,
Yep.
whatever. And one of the biggest things, like me and Tanya, we drove down a street yesterday, and every house along that road was for sale. I'm talking about every one. Okay, for sale sign after for sale sign after for sale
Hmm.
sign. And I did a little more research into it, and the reason why is they just can't get insurance. Just even citizens, because they got flooded twice, in 2 years, and they just can't get insurance.
Yeah.
So, some of these people have high mortgages. They are just going to walk away. At the end of the day, they're walking away because of insurance. So, I think that's going to be a a big, big issue in 2025. I think we're going to be talking a lot. I think we're going to be talking about insurance a lot more in the coming year.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially along the coast. It affects so many, and then these storms affected so many people, such a wide swath of people, in our state and in other states. It's a major issue that people are facing right now. And, a lot of those houses in some of those neighborhoods, those were generational homes. And, whether they may have had a mortgage for whatever reason, but, those have been passed along or they're, multi-generational living in the home together. And it's tough. They get hit with one storm a year and a half ago, and then now they're having to file yet another claim and have their house completely re-renovated again. And that's tough, and that's tough for the insurance company too. They've got to remain solvent.
When I did that interview with Greg, you guys could check it out on the channel. Like, it really sticks with me. He says, if you're living on a ranch home in a flood zone, if you get flooded, it's devastating. Pretty much, he said, it's life changing.
Yeah,
But if you're on a stilt home, and everything gets flooded underneath, but not the house, it's more of an inconvenience. And that kind of hit home. That's why I always tell people, if you're going to live on the water, do not buy a ranch house. I know a lot of realtors don't like me saying that, but including this Greg, this realtor,
yeah.
but I'm not a big advocate and, every year worrying about, oh, am I going to get flooded this year or not? Like he said, the last storm before these ones was 31 years ago. It was the no name storm,
Right.
it
That's
was
what I mean.
31
Like
years.
we've talked about that,
Yeah.
and
And
I
then
don't
this
disagree
guy
with
hit
them, and I
2 years
don't
in a
disagree
row.
with you either. Yeah.
But you don't know if it's going to be another 30 years before you get hit again.
No, and it's like you and I have discussed in our other videos. This is going to be. I would caution people so that they're going in with as much information as they possibly can to make an educated decision when they're purchasing a home that's on the coast and it's a ranch style. They need to understand that this is a possibility. It could be 50 years before this happens again, or it could be next year.
Yeah, you
We
just
don't
never know.
know.
But to me, it's
Right.
Too much, especially at my age. That's the last thing I need to, worry about and stuff like that. All right, so we both agree that one's going to be one of the nails in the coffin of these real estate in Florida. So, how about this one? Investor pullback. Investors are actively has slowed, with cash sales dropping by 20.8% year over year, leading to increased inventory and reduced demand in certain markets. That's the key, in certain markets.
Exactly.
So, do I think it's going to affect? Yes. And I think investor pullback, at the same time, there's a lot of investors buying these waterfront properties that me and you talked about, but, and I've talked to them and stuff. They actually made an offer on, one of my properties, but what they want to basically do to these houses is just knock them down and build $1 million waterfront properties, stilts.
Right. And to, to the stat and stuff that you cited there, investors move around and go from buy box to buy box. They have a certain criteria that they want to meet. And with the storms, the larger investors, and maybe some small ones too, but you've got to have the capital up front to hold these properties, right? To take a loan, and they're not going to get a mortgage to do these. They're going to use a hard money loan maybe, to secure the property, renovate it, get it built, knock it down, whatever the case is. Like a lot of those that we've looked at over by yours, they're going to start scraping those off, and they've already started building these
Yeah, you saw
monstrosity,
that they're
just
building what
giant
three or
houses that
four of
are,
them right now
yeah,
already. It's been
million
what,
and
a
a half
month?
dollars. Yeah. I mean, they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful
Oh yeah,
homes.
but I mean the multi generation people that live there, they're not going to be able to live there anymore.
No, and that's just kind of what we talked about in that other video. We can link that up. And they're slowly but surely going to go out. But that, if you look at history, that's kind of what's happened over time. Clearwater Beach, Indian Rocks Beach, to a certain effect, for those people who've been around for a long time in the
Yeah,
Pinellas
what
County
do you call
area.
that when you say the towns change? Like what do they go through a
Gentrify,
what
gentrify, called
gentrify?
gentrification.
Yeah, I keep forgetting every time you say that. All right, how about this one for the nail in the coffin? Climate risk. Rising sea levels, increased hurricane frequencies pose significant risk to coastal properties, potential leading to depreciation and higher insurance costs. We already know about the higher insurance cost, but do you think that people are just saying, you know what, I'm not moving to Florida, I'm not going to live, it's just because of climate?
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are reconsidering moving to Florida simply because of the sheer number of storms that have hit us in general right here in the Tampa Bay area. But when a storm comes, you don't necessarily, just because the clouds cover the state, storms are huge. A lot of the storms, I can tell you, it's a fact that they've come across and they've devastated areas in South Florida. And we have rain, but it's just like an afternoon shower style rain, but it's cloudy. And we're prepared for it because we never know exactly where a storm is going to turn. But it's not, the entire state is underwater.
No,
So
I totally
yeah,
understand what you're saying. Totally
it's tough.
understand.
People will make that decision, and
Yeah, and they'll
it's
go
going to be
for
on
it.
their tolerance level.
These next two over here, and I really think this is what's going to affect real estate, in my opinion. One of them is economic uncertainty, potential new federal policies under Donald Trump is coming in. He's going to change a few things,
Hmm.
mortgage rates, affordability. I think between economic uncertainty and affordability challenges in Florida because of the high prices and elevated mortgage rates, I'm combining two of them together, but I think that's going to be a really, really big contributing factor to the perfect storm when it comes to Florida. What do you think of that?
That was a lot there.
Basically, prices are just high for the average person. Like, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Okay, I did a little research. Just okay, Pinellas County.
Okay.
The average home, I think, from what I saw, and again, you guys do the research, but from what I saw, the average price was 389, 390, but the average income is 74,000. That's a big, you know, that's not a lot of money for such an expensive house.
Right. And we've talked about that in the past too, where it's, mostly it's going to be a dual income. In the 380s, you're going to need a dual income because you're going to need roughly what, 115, depending on your debt to income,
Yeah,
to cover to cover the, so your spread is good, and then you might be a little tight. Um, and that's just the average sale. So that's taking all the expensive stuff and then all the less expensive stuff and pushing them all together and making an average. So we talk about median versus average prices, and this is where sometimes if you're buying, we're talking different groups. If you're a first-time home buyer, you're probably not going to be able to buy that downtown Dunedin home as your first home. It's probably not feasible anymore. 30 some odd years ago when I bought my first house, I was I was 2 blocks off of downtown Safety Harbor. There's no, if I was coming into this as a first time buyer, there's no way I could afford that today
All right,
because
so
it's changed.
you sell a lot of new construction. Let's talk about
Yep.
that one, okay?
Okay.
Because it's on the list. While this new construction is, they're building everywhere. The cost is still high overall. Okay, they are building, smaller homes to try to lower the price, and they are giving incentives, and they're doing buy downs, and they're
Mhm.
giving upgrades and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, they're still, expensive homes. Do you think that new construction is going to help or hurt the real estate market in 2025?
It's going to help because we're short nationally. We're still short homes.
Mhm.
Despite this increase in inventory, we still have a lack of homes because we've just not developed infrastructure enough to keep up with population growth
All right,
on a national level, not just Florida, but that's
I,
more of
I
a
I
national
agree
thing.
with you and stuff, but I think that because of the cost of labor and the cost of materials and all that stuff, builders could only go so low before it's not worth it to them anymore.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, they got to pay their labor, they got to pay their subs, their salespersons, their support staff, all that, just like any other business does. It's no different, and their margins get thinner and thinner as time goes on. But at the end of the day, we still have they're still building, and they are still making money. Some of these are publicly traded companies, and we're expanding all over the counties, especially here in the Tampa Bay area.
Here's
We're
here's
bringing in industry too.
here's a big one, okay, when it comes to the death nail in the perfect storm for Florida in 2025. Remote work. The days of remote work are slowing down dramatically. I'm not saying they're going away or they'll ever go away, but a lot of companies are calling people back. So a lot of
Mhm.
people from New York, Connecticut, Jersey, California, they move to Florida and they still keep those salaries and they work remotely. But a lot of them are saying, hey, you know what? You're going back to work right now and you're coming back here to the office. Do you think that's going to affect Florida real estate in 2025, the lack of remote work?
That's hard to say because I don't. I mean, obviously, on the surface, that it's going to affect things to an extent. Um, let's elaborate on that a little bit. So that means now that they're probably going to have to sell a house. So that means a piece of inventory is coming back on the market, and they're not going to take up a piece of inventory because they're moving back home. Let's use New York as an example.
I know the perfect person. I know somebody that actually moved here to do remote work from New York, and they just got called back, and they're putting their house on the market. 2 years they've been here.
Right. And, I mean, it's happening to people here too. I've got a friend that works remote, but now they're hybrid remote. So they have to go into the office. I believe it's 3 days a week to the office, 2 days at home.
Hmm.
So, they're just coming into the office, that's a whole other conversation. But as far as the inventory, so they're not taking a piece of inventory off the market, or they're going to keep the home and they'll turn it into a rental property and make it an income base, which will lock up the piece of inventory, but it also opens up a home for somebody to rent to help stabilize the rental market, which is starting to slow a little bit. I think we were down like 1.5%,
Right.
which
All
is
right,
not a
Bill.
big one.
At the end of the day, this is what my prediction is for 2025. Okay. And I'm not the realtor. You are. But I think the first quarter of 2025 is going to be tough when it comes to real estate. I think the second quarter it's going to get a little better, and then I think the third and fourth quarter things will go back to normal. Not the unicorn years,
Well, that's
but
not normal. Yeah.
but not the unicorn years during. But I think the market will go back to the way it was before COVID. I think a lot of realtors that got into the business, including home inspectors and everybody else with the real estate part of the market jobs, I think a lot of them will go away. But I think the people that I think it'll be a leaner amount of realtors, home inspectors, title agents, everybody. But I think it'll stabilize. That's what I think is going to happen. First quarter rough, second quarter better, third and fourth quarter back to the normal times.
Yeah, I don't think that we're going to instantly heal by any stretch of the imagination. There's a long road ahead. And I know everybody hopes for it. You know, we all do, right? We all hope for everything to get healed back up right away, and like the election's over and this is over and that's over and every other, reason that we've talked about over the this past year 2024. But it doesn't happen overnight. And if we lower interest rates too much too fast,
Yeah,
the market
the
effect,
prices of homes are just going to go
they're going
skyrocket.
to go through the roof again. It's not going to help things. It's going to hurt things. So,
Right.
timing the market is very, very difficult. And it generally just doesn't work because overall, I'll be curious to see how the final stats go. But overall, equity gains nationally are up slightly, but it's still an uptick, not a downtick. And then
Well,
we start talking. We have to make sure we separate Florida, Tampa Bay, and then rest of the country overall when we're talking.
here's my thing with Florida. Okay, I still think Florida is a good place to invest and buy homes. I know
Absolutely.
I was negative and I beat it up, but let me clarify what I'm saying. I think it's a good investment long term. I don't think it's a good investment right now, short term. If you're planning to buy a home short term and live here for a short period of time or try to flip it, I think that you're asking, for trouble. But I think overall, if you're in here for the long term and you have stable income and I think it'll be a good thing. Like when I bought my house here, I can't tell you how many people came up to me and say, "Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Are you crazy?" You know.
Yep.
Now look at it. It more than doubled. It tripled in value from what I
Hmm.
paid for it.
Yeah.
I would have a hard time buying this house in today's market.
Yeah. Of course. Our viewers and just everybody in general needs to understand the difference between an investor and an investment. And I'm not talking like financial investment in the realm of like I'm doing stock trades, 401ks, et cetera, because yield on returns is different. We're talking, you know, someone who needs to purchase a home that they're going to live in. That's what we're talking about. It's people who need a home to live
Right.
in compared to maybe renting. If you're here temporarily or you're a remote work and you might have to go back or you might get transferred to a different division in a different state or out of the local general area and it's probably on the cusp, you shouldn't buy a house unless you can afford to turn the property that you purchased into a rental and then purchase another home.
Right. I
You
agree
know,
with you.
that's I think a lot of times just my conversations with so many people listen to different podcasts, they listen to different advice, and then they loop themselves into, well, the mindset of they're an investor versus it's a home. It's their home. It is an investment, but they're not an investor where they're going to
So
fix and flip things.
So you think, okay, so basically you're saying that it's going to be a rough road ahead of us, but are you, what do you think of 2020? Bullish, bearish?
2025, Q1, the first couple of months. Yes, are we going to sell homes? Of course we are.
Yeah, because
Is
people always have to move. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is this going to be like some landslide? Everything's amazing because, the stroke of midnight happens and things get all fixed? No, because that's not good either. Anything fast is not good. We want to have this slow return to things to back to where we're normal. Remember, pre-COVID, we were in the realm of, the 5 to 6% interest rates,
Right,
you
right,
know,
right.
like that's a good. So, I mean, if we get down mid sixes, we saw a little bump up, right?
Sure.
That's going to help things. But where we're at now, while home equity is still on the rise, as a whole for the country. And then don't get confused if you buy a house. This is why it's important to consult a real estate professional in that specific area, or at least get a better understanding. Call us, we can talk about it. And you have to make that decision and just be careful where you're going. I had a client that relocated from here to another area, and that area was on fire. It was like
Really?
COVID all over again. It
Really?
was, yeah. I mean, so this is where I mean, it's like soup, these tiny little pockets.
It's specific to
Right.
micro territories, maybe.
Micro territories. So overall, though, we're probably going to sell a little. We'll probably sell, a few thousand more units. We'll have a couple thousand more transactions compared to what we had in 2024, and we'll start to slowly slide back up. Which is healthy and good.
Interesting.
That's. I just don't. I don't know that we're going to have a crazy crash. Now there could be something that happens, and we can manipulate stats to say whatever we want for the most part, without how they were collected. But at the end of the day, I don't think we're going to have this crash. Our price is going to come down some. Yeah, I think so, because they need to. Are we going to have a crash? No. And I know you've said it. If you're in your house and you think about this, the simplistic way to do this, if you're in your house and the market is hot, that means you're going to sell high and you're going to buy high.
Right.
If the market's slow, you're going to sell low and you're going to buy low. We don't generally have a hot seller market, low buyer market.
And what I always said is you don't lose money on your house until you sell it.
You sell it. If you sell it in a market where it's down, and then
Yeah.
how much, and that's usually on when you're selling it like in the first couple of years, because that's hard to make money.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's why I told people that in my opinion, Florida is a good investment for the long term. For the short term, I don't think it's a good investment, and that's
Depending
just
on who you are.
depending on who you are. But I just think you have to be careful and you have to go into it. And I still believe that if you're moving from out of state to Florida, you should rent for the first year. But
That's a smart move.
we did a whole video on that too.
Yep.
But hey, everybody, do me a favor, comment below. Do you think in 2025 that we're going into the perfect storm or we're not? And also, what I want to do is, Bill, one of the questions I have is, does it really matter who's president when it comes to real estate?
No.
Okay, that's what I'm basically saying. I think that the market is going to determine what's going to happen in 2025 because people are commenting, and I don't really get into politics on this channel, but they comment that everything's going to be okay now because Trump is in office. But I think certain things are out of his control. But everybody comment below, tell us what you think. Anyways, that's today's video. I greatly appreciate it. We tried a different format right now. We're going to be doing more of these because of our busy schedules, and we want to get good quality videos to you guys. Do me a favor, consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel. And check out the video that's going to be pretty much on top of Bill right now because why cover me up?
Yeah. Duh. Don't put it in the middle.
Check it out. I picked it out just for you guys. And thank you. And we'll catch you on the next one.
All right. Thanks. We'll see you on the next video.